Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 7th of 2023, and given that there's a lot of things going on right now behind closed doors over at Disney for Snow White 2024, just ahead of its D23 release, or should I say their D23 event to announce many up-and-coming releases. What's even all the more unveiling has a lot to do with what's been going on between director Marc Webb and Rachel Zegler, who portrays Snow White in this film. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that there's a lot of things happening between Marc Webb and the Disney higher-ups and the re-edits that are taking place as we speak for Snow White, which, by the way, is a part of their Plan A. Their Plan B is to do some reshoots, but that's, of course, not possible at this point in time due to the writer's strike and everything happening with SAG. Even if they wanted to pursue that immediately, they would still have to delay this movie without a doubt. Now, moving on forward to what's going on between Marc Webb and Rachel Zegler. This is where things begin to unravel for the up-and-coming live-action remake. Now, we know that everything related to the live-action remake of Snow White is that they really wanted to make it a modern spin on the 1937 animated film / the original German tale. Both, of course, of which are completely excluded from the current film, and it really disregards the source material. Now, this is where things begin to really get very involved, because what Marc Webb recently did really seems to have struck a nerve for Rachel Zegler. Let's discuss. Now, with Rachel Zegler getting into ongoing drama specifically surrounding, of course, director Marc Webb, and as he actually embraces re-edits. As it turns out, he has been, of course, having growing issues with Zegler, where he recently cancelled an entire scene in the second act of the film, as re-edits by Disney continue. As it turns out, Webb willingly deleted and even convinced Disney to move ahead with deleting a controversial scene in which Zegler's Snow White mocks Andrew Burnap's Jonathan at some point in the film, to the point where it makes the supposed new version of the prince comes across like a doormat and comes across like a complete separate individual from the 1937 film. One of the scenes shot back in June of 2022 involved Zegler leading Jonathan through the Forbidden Forest. This is where it gets bad, by the way, guys. This is where Jonathan begins to show signs of fear and asking Zegler to turn back as she leads the way. This is when a series of nicknames and remarks are given to Jonathan by Snow White, where she calls him around 5 to 6 different nicknames to shame him on being fearful to walk through the Forbidden Forest, which is an absolute danger leading to the Evil Queen's castle anyway, for anybody. Webb decided to completely erase this scene as he felt it not only devalues Jonathan as a character, but that it was too harsh of a take to begin with to have left in the final cut of the film. So guys, let me just stop here quick. So basically the main reasoning behind why Marc Webb decided to have the editors of the film cut this scene out is that the take that was done by Rachel Zegler and the way that the scene was crafted came across as very much girl bossy, where the remarks, the nicknames that were being thrown by Zegler's Snow White to Andrew Burnap's Jonathan really came across as very narcissistic, came across as very, much of a nuisance to deal with, and I think at the end of the day, Marc Webb was beginning to realize that, yeah, a lot of people that see this movie are not going to appreciate this scene all that much. So the fact that they even shot this to begin with is beyond me. It sounds like either A, Marc had a change of heart, or B, Marc is beginning to wake up and realize just how bad the backlash is, and he is really trying to do whatever he can to do to salvage this movie to at least make it a little bit more tolerable. And I've said this many times, and I know I've said this way too many times, there's nothing that you can do to save this movie, no matter how many scenes that you cut out, no matter how many songs that are in this movie that you end up deleting. As long as you got the 7 magical creatures in there, as long as you have Rachel Zegler as Snow White, this movie will ultimately fail. Because we all know that Disney has done similar things with past films where they do a complete re-edit and it still did not perform well at the box office, nor did it really impress a lot of people. Hence the Rise of Skywalker, same exact scenario. They went through so much footage, so many takes, so many alternate endings before the final cut was made. But anyway, moving onwards, this is where things begin to unravel even further. Let's get into this. Now, ZEGLER, of course, and her scene reportedly came across as very girl bossy, like I mentioned before, to the maximum. And Marc Webb deleted this not only due to ZEGLER's acting take, but also due to how drawn out the scene was, which was taking up a good amount of time. The amount of takes that were done for the scene were reportedly around 7. Webb also made it clear to Disney why it needed to be erased, and they agreed for him to do so. ZEGLER, however, reportedly got very defensive over this decision as she learned of the re-edits happening throughout Disney and their plan to tame the backlash as much as possible from the audience. Also, this scene was described as the most attitude-driven moment of Snow White. Now, here's the problem. We all know what Rachel Zegler said about this movie. It's all about Snow White rising to become a leader and carrying on this message that was given to her, from her father, right? Carrying that on about what the king gave to her. And so this scene sounds like it really takes it to the maximum level of just absurdity. It makes no sense at all. She's literally treating the supposed prince, and I say the supposed prince because he's not called Prince Jonathan or Prince John in this film. He is literally just Jonathan. Sometimes even referred to as John in this movie, which is going to sound very, very weird, but, for a Snow White movie, you expect for him to maybe be called Prince blank, just anything. Kind of like how in the original film, it was Prince Florian. They could have done something like that. They could have easily just called him Prince Florian, by the way, if they really wanted to, but no, Disney, they have to go ahead with just a regular name, and just throw it into Snow White. You might as well throw in other names out there, right? Just any name. Now, moving to the next thing here, we know that ZEGLER has really been getting very uptight over Disney allowing all of these re-edits, some of which, by the way, were enforced by the Disney higher-ups and passed down to Webb to tell the editors what to do. Some of which, like this one, were actually really done by Webb himself and got the permission by Disney to just erase the scene in total. It sounds like, from what I can gather here, is that Marc Webb is trying to really salvage this movie as much as he can, and I don't think he's going to do anything that's going to make any kind of an impact, to be honest with you guys. But anyway, I would like to hear what your take is on all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.